Welcome back to another episode of Litigation Speaks. This is Richard Claywell. Today I want to talk to you about a statistical term that's called a coefficient of determination. Now, hopefully I haven't had you have a heart attack yet, or you fall over your chair saying, what's this going to be about? This is very, very basic, real simple, but it's things that attorneys, I believe, need to understand. What we're going to talk about is a coefficient of determination. And what that deals with is the strength of the data that you want to project or forecast. The greater or the higher the number is on a coefficient of determination, the more reliability the relationship is between two data points. The coefficient of determination will range from 0, which means there's absolutely no relationship whatsoever, up to 1, which means it's 100% correlated. So what winds up happening is, and again, let me reiterate that I'm getting this information from actual reports that I received here. This is not stuff I'm just going out there and making up. If you look at the proportions of these, again, the lower the number, the worse your data, the higher number, the better the data. Have, in my world, what's more likely than not. So how do we define that? Well, more likely than not is something greater than 50%. If it's less likely, it's less than 50%. So that's kind of what the valuation and damage community uses as a rule of thumb. How do we draw the line on what we want to use for making predictions and using forecasts, using regression analysis in the work that we do? So if the number that we come up with is greater than 0.5, we say that it is more likely than not a good number that we have. If it's less than 50%, then it's not a good number, and we probably should not be using regression analysis. We would use some other techniques to come up with a value or a number that we're trying to come up with. On the information I posted on my website, I have two different charts, and you also will see this on YouTube. I'm showing what the data would look like if the coefficient of determination was 0.2. You'll notice that the data is just real erratic, very, very volatile, and it's just almost impossible to use that information to make a projection or a forecast. Something I'm not talking about today, but we will be talking about later on, is when we do this, is this data statistically significant or not? And if you use the 0.2 in this particular example, the data is not statistically significant. So if your expert has used a 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, the R-square coefficient determination is not that strong, then you want to fall back and look at, is it statistically significant? And what you don't want to wind up happening is you wind up in the courtroom and the opposing attorney asks a question about, is the data statistically significant? Your expert doesn't really understand the question or doesn't know how to answer the question. Then it's explained to them, and they realize that it's not statistically significant, and then your case has a problem. So you want to avoid that. I also have a second chart where the coefficient of determination is 0.8. What I did is I took the data from the expert that had 0.2, and I shuffled the numbers around just a little bit until I got, it was actually 0.815. So now I've got a stronger relationship, and you'll see that there's a trend in the data. There's an upward trend that goes to the top right-hand side of the chart that's there, but there's a chart, and there's a trend. And the coefficient of determination is 0.8. That is more likely than not a good number for us to be using to make a regression analysis. If we can use a regression analysis, then we get into, is it statistically significant or not? And what's the probability factors that we've used, which are what the federal rules are going to get into. So it helps define that, whether we're doing a business valuation, we're doing economic damages or lost profits. So this really helps with that. I believe it's important for the attorney to understand that Because if there's no predictive power in these numbers, and if the number, coefficient determination number, is less than 50%, there's really no predictive power in it. So then the question becomes, why are you using it to make predictions? So the attorney, I think, needs to understand that. I think it's a very, very simple concept to understand that if it's less than 0.5, you may have some real serious issues in the analysis that you're dealing with. If your expert has used that with less than 0.5 and it's not very predictive, I think that you're going to have some real issues with your case. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I would hope that if you have any questions on this, you send me an email or give me a call. If you have any questions on any topics related to business valuations, damages, or forensic accounting, again, feel free to either give me a call or send me an email. I hope you enjoy this. I hope it adds to your knowledge base to help you better handle your cases that happen in the future. Thank you for your time.